Hi, I'm Veronica, and welcome to my channel. I'm a fan of really small mini breaks that can make a big difference. That's why today I wanted to show you how you could include mini breaks that would reverse or stop that effect of accumulating tension in your body caused by a sedentary job. And you can do those mini breaks while at work, while sitting at the desk in the office, surrounded by other people, because they're all quite subtle. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're updated about any new videos. And if you are fortunate enough to work from home or have a job when you're completely on your own and you don't need to worry about looking silly, check out this video where I give you a different suggestions of what you could do as a mini break. Okay, so let's get started with 5 ideas of reducing and releasing the tension while you are sitting at the desk. Number 1, just shifting your gaze. You spend entire day looking at the screen, so focusing your gaze at that one very small area. This is quite unnatural. This is not what we were made evolutionarily for. We used to roam the savannas and check for any upcoming danger. So it's not just that it's not really good for your eyesight, it also creates tension at the back of your neck. And that kind of tunnel vision is associated with the sympathetic nervous system, so your fight and flight response. In other words, it makes you more stressed out if you always just have a very limited field of vision. That's why moving to the horizontal view, to this peripheral vision, is going to make quite a difference. And it's really subtle. You can definitely do it at any office. So instead of looking at a very concrete spot, like I'm doing right now, you look somewhere much farther into the distance, somewhere forward. And imagine that you are a deer or a horse, and that you have your eyes on either side of your head so that you can take that whole panoramic view. And maybe you can catch something like a glimpse of a shape or a color with a corner of each eye. It's not going to be a detailed view, but you really want to have the broadest field of vision possible for a while. And you don't really need to do that for a long time either. Another thing that is really simple is simply shifting your eyes from the screen somewhere else at a window and looking through the window for a moment with some nice view. Or you can look at other direction somewhere in the other corner of your office. But basically the idea is that you are shifting the focus. So sometimes it's a little bit ahead of you, sometimes it's much farther ahead, but that gaze is constantly shifting. One more thing you can do, practicing with the eyes, is turning your gaze all the way to one side. Well, if somebody is looking at you, it might look weird. But if nobody is paying attention, maybe you can do that. So the head is exactly ahead, as if you were still looking at the screen, but your eyeballs move all the way to one side. And that often brings up some sort of response from your nervous system. It's like a mini reset. So there might be a sigh, a yawn. It might be like a bigger breath or a need to swallow, or not, nothing at all. Then you move the gaze back to the center just for a moment before you turn your gaze to the other side. So you can blink, of course, and you don't turn your head, it's only the eyeballs, and they stay all the way to one side. Obviously, if it makes you feel dizzy or nauseous, it's better to skip this one. And then come back to the center. Number 2, playing with your legs. So if you have that fortune to have the front of the desk covered, you're in some sort of cubicle, no one can really see what's happening underneath the desk. That gives you plenty of opportunities to practice and move your legs. So, it's going to increase your circulation, your lymph flow, and it's still, up above the desk, everything is as normal, while underneath you might be doing things like straightening and bending one knee at a time. You might be lifting and lowering your heels. You might lift one heel and make circles with your ankle. That will obviously work best if you could slip your shoes off. So that is the ideal option. Let's see if that's possible for you. But the most fun you can have with your toes. And actually, that's really important. 3, playing with your feet and toes. You might think that feet are, completely not important, but they are actually crucial for your sense of balance, for that communication of the contact between the ground and your spine and your posture. So if your feet are not mobile, supple enough, if they do not respond to that feedback from the surface, it will affect your posture, the freedom of movement. It will go all the way up, maybe even towards your neck. So excessive tension in the fascia, in the soles of your feet, definitely can be responsible for your lower back pain and maybe even for the neck pain. So trust me, it is worth to pay attention to the feet. I have some other videos on that. And yeah, it's not possible if you're wearing shoes, but if you can slip off your shoes. And ideally, if you have those toe socks, the ones where each toe is separate, you can really have fun there underneath the desk. So if you're barefoot or if you have toe socks, you can play with your toes. You can start with lifting all your toes and spreading them wide apart and then placing them back on the floor. Lifting, spreading, and slowly placing them back. You can also try lifting only your big toes and lower them. And maybe you can keep the big toe down and lift all the remaining toes. Now watch out, I don't mean that you lift the sides of the feet, the edges of the feet. They stay. The big toes are on the ground, other toes lift. You don't really need to check it. Stay with the felt sense. Okay. You could also lift all your toes and then lower them one by one, as if you're playing a piano, from the little toe through the fourth, third, second, and the big toe. And lift them one by one as well, starting with the big toe, going through the second, third, fourth, all the way to the little toe. You might notice that those three toes in the middle like to go together. And you will naturally find it easier to go one way than the other. So check how it would be to start with a big toe and then lower those middle ones and the little one at the end. And start lifting from the little toe and lift the fourth, third, second, and end with the big toe. So there are endless possibilities of play. Have fun with that. Number 4, swimming your pelvis and your spine. So I don't know if that's gonna be very visible from here, but what you could do, and that might be kind of really subtle, it might not necessarily draw the attention of those that are around you, is to create a circular movement with your pelvis. You might go really slow, and that's probably going to be even less visible and might actually give you even more feedback of how your pelvis feels like, how your spine or lower back feels like. So what I'm doing right now is allowing the back to round and the pelvis to tilt backward, so that I can feel it with the feedback of the chair that I'm behind my sit bones, those two bones that are right in the middle of your buttock. And then I go more towards one side, and then I go forward. So here the lower back is arched a little bit, and I'm in front of my sit bones. And then I'm rolling more a little bit to the other side. And that's how it goes. That might be very slow. It doesn't really need to be exaggerated. It doesn't need to be a huge movement. But there is this pelvic swim, the circular movement that goes on in your pelvis that is also affecting your spine. And it's very effective at releasing tension from your hips area and from your lower back. It also helps you to find that place right in the middle where you're in the center of both sit bones for that effortless upright position. Now you could also move the spine in circular motion, imagining that you're making circles with your rib cage in this dimension. So it goes like this. Your ribs move a little bit forward in space, a little bit to one side, a little bit backward, and a little bit to the other side. And again, it doesn't need to be exaggerated. It can be quite subtle. You might notice that actually it is quite tricky to find the movement in this particular section of the spine. And man, it really needs it. It needs that mobility, not to get kind of stuck and frozen. It also really improves your breathing. So that circular motions where you're trying to move this time, not the pelvis doesn't move, and it's not the movement of your shoulders that would look like this. It's really the movement of the rib cage itself. And yes, we're already at rotations and movements of the spine. You could obviously also turn your head from side to side. Not necessarily to the maximum, but to where it feels a comfortable range of movement for you. And I really like a micro circles with the cervical spine. So here you might imagine that your head is not attached to the spine and it's just balancing precariously on top of your neck. And you want to move it in a circular motion, but without it dropping down to the floor. So it means that it's a micro movement. So again, something subtle, really small movement at the very top of the spine. So as you might see, I'm not dropping my head all the way down. I'm not dropping my chin to the chest. It's that really small movement at the top of the neck. So those were circles. Number 5, the easiest one, and probably the most pleasant as well, hopefully permitted at your workplace. Stretching, ideally stretching with yawning. So it's not like a stretch where you really have a goal and you want to reach somewhere in particular. It's this kind of spontaneous movement, exactly the same one when you just woke up and your body kind of decides where it wants to go. If you can add to that a little bit of a sigh or at least half silent yawn, that will be the best. Of course, probably you cannot go full on with your with the sounds here, but at least get that feeling that yeah, I'm getting to those places that feel a bit stuck, and oh yeah, that's really good. It takes seconds, and again, it makes a difference, and it's also like this natural reset for your nervous system. So your nervous system kind of decides what is the base level of tension in your muscles. That is, some of it is necessary, for example, to keep your posture upright, but usually that tension is excessive. So this is a kind of natural reset that tells your brain, oh, I've been using too much of this tonus. It can go down a little bit. Oh, hopefully you enjoyed that. So I hope you already gathered that it really doesn't matter how exactly you move, so long that there is something that you don't normally do or you don't do often enough. So you can come up with your own ideas and maybe even comment below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, don't forget to click like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to know more about my programs and masterclasses, head to my website, www.withmetta.eu. I will link it in the description below. Have a lovely day and see you next time.